she asks him to clean a drawer. And he's like, he can't do it. It says it was women's work. Not that he minded helping his sister, but this task required small hands and a nimble touch, not the stubby logs his fingers felt like. Like, he tries to lift out a tray and can't do it because it's women's work. He like drops it on the floor.
Like, yeah, this book is like, the reason that certain jobs like cleaning are for women is that real men have hands that are too big to do these jobs.
Big to lift out drawers.
Physically can't clean out the drawer because his hand is too beefy to do it properly.
Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Emma. As you can see, I'm joined today by the lovely Savy of Savy Writes Books, and we are continuing our review of the first MAGA romance book, Ladies First, which we still cannot decide if it is real or a parody. So if you haven't already seen it, the first half is over on Savy's channel, so do go and check that out. Because we're going to start from chapter 7, so get your butts over there and then come back.
I love how we both read this book in its entirety and have had a book discussion on it for an hour and a half so far, and still don't know if it's authentic.
We still can't tell.
We still can't tell. I really want people to say in the comments, what do you think it is? Please
do. And if you have an idea now, put it in the comments and then like edit or add another comment at the end if your view has changed. Because yes, I kept jumping back and forth. I can't decide. So we're on chapter 7. We're back to Ricky's perspective now.
Yes.
She is at Mike's place and she's talking to Mike's sister, Michelle. Again, kind of wondered if, especially with the Karen name earlier, kind of wondered if like Mike and Michelle was like a bit of a sort of silly kind of naming thing. I don't know.
I think because they're twins and parents.
If there's any there's probably like twins in the comments that are called Mike and Michelle, and I've really upset them. Like, I don't know, Michael and Michelle. I just kind of thought, because Michelle is like also like French for Michael, so it would be like Michael and Michael. I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. But Ricky is like chatting to her while removing her makeup. Michelle is like really protective of her brother, and so she's kind of skeptical of Ricky. Ricky specifically notices that the house is very traditionally decorated. The only specific they give is that there's a well-worn Bible on a side table. So she's like, I better be on my best behavior. For some reason, we don't know why. Again, she barely knows this man. She's just met this woman.
Christians are judgmental.
Yeah, she just doesn't want to be judged, I guess. It's very weird.
The book is like admitting that she's like, oh, I better be on my best behavior because Christians are judgmental.
It kind of is. So Michelle's helping her like get the green out of her hair, which we talked about last time, how unrealistic this is. That's
if you are blonde, green is not coming out of your hair in one wash. It's not. As someone who has dyed my hair many colors, green does not come out. Sometimes it doesn't come out ever, even if it's temporary dye. Green doesn't come out of blonde, you guys. So she's like, I put green in my hair this morning and I'm going to wash it out right now before I go back to my parents' house. It's not going to wash out that quick.
And it fully washes out because she like, so this is all from Ricky's perspective again as well. And she's the way she's talking about herself is kind of weird. She's like, now that she's back to the gorgeous light blonde stereotype that, to be fair, I have seen a lot on like Republican sources. That is a very like the kind of MAGA crowd thing. They love their hot blonde women.
They do.
But Ricky's like, she feels like she might be the sort of person to attract attention from like a Republican man. And she like goes in to see Mike and she's all shy because now she's blonde.
Once you become blonde, you become shy, as you know, because I'm blonde and I'm really quiet. I never say anything.
She's just like, oh no, now I'm blonde. I bet he's attracted to me. Oh, hello. It's so bizarre. But now she finds him undeniably handsome. And she's like, he's like studying her really intensely and she loves it. And she has to fight her attraction to him because her priority is her grad program, which is very fair. But also, and more importantly, the like feminist cult that she's trying to join. Sisterhood.
Her little feminist cult.
The tea party, the joining tea party or whatever it is like on Friday. So she's like all stressed about it. So she's like, I can't fall in love with this.
I can't fall in love. It's impossible to both be in love with a man and also doing the thing I'm passionate about. Wouldn't you think as a feminist, she would have a better understanding that like of how to like, it's one of the things feminist rhetoric has been so in supportive of is like working mothers and women being able, even within a marriage with a man, having equal rights. So falling in love with the man is not anti-feminist. It's part of like how feminists see that you need to still, you know, have rights for that. So I'm like, shouldn't a feminist want to be able to balance it all, Ricky? I don't know. If she doesn't want to have a relationship, that's her prerogative. But the book is all like, Ricky doesn't know yet that having a man is what's best for her, because having a man is always what's best for you. This is her
realization that having a man is what she really wants to make her happy.
I like how Mike hasn't changed his appearance at all. She's changed her appearance, and yet she finds him more attractive now. Like, well, the later it gets, what about you being blonde makes him more attractive? He looks the same, but I guess the green was like in her brain. The green has seeped into her brain and made her angry, and now that it's all washed out, she can be her pure blonde self. She's not angry anymore. Yeah, she has no anger left. The anger was stored in the hair dye. Yes.
Well, I think it's because they go on again, you know, Michelle's like, what surprised you about the rally? And Michelle's actually she's the only like nice character in the whole book. She's like quite respectful to this woman of a different political opinions. Like, I respect you going and checking out what the other side was up to.
Yeah, look at Michelle.
She's actually okay. And she's like asking what Ricky was surprised about there. And Ricky's like, I just couldn't believe how nice and lovely and kind and nice everyone was, like Mike. And they kind of go into like, he saved me. And it's almost like that's why she likes him, because he was doing a protect and she's so small and she's had big man protect her for first
She
time.
is big, little small bean, ubu, need big man to do big protect. But at the time she didn't feel like she was being protected. It's like this book like forgot what she was like a couple pages ago. Ago, Ricky was terrified because Mike was physically forcing her into the car with him, and the book just forgets all about that. It says she's like, he saved me by abducting me and forcing me into a car.
But he bought her dinner. He's bought her dinner now, so she's like, even though throughout dinner they just argued, but now she's in love with him. I don't understand.
I mean, arguing can be a love language. I could see that. I think that having someone that you can argue with is very fun. But their arguing wasn't like fun arguing. They were just, I mean, I guess they could see an enemies to lovers thing. Like, I love the enemies to lovers trope, but the enemies, it's not really done well here. It's not.
It's like, it could have been that they were having fun with the discussion, and you can almost read that in a couple of places, but then they sort of get genuinely annoyed with each other. It's just like, it's not explicitly sort of in there that they are having fun with this back and forth. So it just kind of, when you're just reading through it, it just kind of seems like they just don't get on at all, but they find each other attractive and therefore must be together.
But then in the next chapter, he talks about he talks about the transformation of Ricky. He starts off being like the transformation from freakish liberal to wholesome girl next door. And I'm like, you were attracted to her with the green hair and the lipstick. You said that in the previous chapter. Like twice. You were attracted to her on the train and you wanted to protect her at the rally. But now you're saying she looked freakish. And no, you didn't feel that way. You were attracted to her in the previous chapters, Mike. So there's no continuity there.
And I always think like when you get like people being like, I just hate women that have hair dye or this makeup or whatever. And it's like, when you're with a person, you know, in a long-term relationship or a marriage or whatever, at the end of the day, they take their makeup off. You can change your hair. Like, it's not only, it's not a permanent thing, but also like to look at someone and not be able to see past the color of their hair, that changes everything for you. I just find so strange.
It's so strange.
Like if I woke up one day and my partner like dyed his hair like a weird color and styled it strangely, like I suddenly wouldn't love him anymore or something. And I'm just like, I don't understand. That's very bizarre way to look at people.
Right. Especially like once you're like actually in love with someone, the love goes a lot deeper than just your physical appearance. So I understand wanting to feel physically attracted to someone at first, but if you're thinking of a long-term type of thing, appearances are going to change over time. It has to be based on more than that. And then he's like, they go in the car and he wants to get physically close to her. And then he says, gosh, you look great. I mean, beautiful. And then she like glares at him and it's like, don't call me beautiful. Even though in the previous chapter, she had turned into a different type of woman. She was all of a sudden very shy and attracted to him. And now she's like, no, don't call me beautiful.
She's gone right back again. It's so...
Because women have mood swings.
Bizarre.
We don't, we have too many mood swings.
Well, no, it's because it's all a facade and she let her facade down for a bit when she was vulnerable. Slipped. Now she's put the wall back up. Yeah, she's an angry feminist again. I also like that he's he's like looking at her like, it's written quite strangely. He's like, he scrambled from the driver's seat and sprinted round to open the door for the all-American girl who was no longer the blathering lib of 30 minutes ago. She just hadn't figured it out yet.
Oh God, she just doesn't know it yet. She's in love with me. She just doesn't know it yet.
I, a man, know exactly what she actually is like because I've known her for several hours and she just doesn't realize yet.
I met this woman a couple hours ago and I already know her better than she knows herself.
Yeah, even though, like we've pointed out a load of times, the person he fell in love with was angry, made up feminist lady.
And then he opens the door for her into the truck and she doesn't like it. And he goes, my truck, my rules. And then when she gets into that, he closes the door gently and he says, no slamming. She was his precious cargo.
Yeah,
that is really hilarious. Like, whether or not it's serious, like there's so many hilarious lines in this book. She was his precious cargo.
It's really funny. Genuinely, I did have a good time reading this. Like, I cannot say anything bad about the 77p I spent on this book because I got a lot out of it. I like this bit as well where she's like saying that she's a TA and she's working on her master's and he's like, let me guess, gender studies. And she's like, yeah.
I love this whole part where she's like, wait, so how do you afford a house on your own? Which could be a great discussion of how awful the housing market is. But instead he's like, well, I work in construction. I don't work in stupid women fields like gender studies and teaching. Yeah. There's no discussion of like, well, maybe being a teaching assistant, maybe teaching and education is a valuable field and there should be better pay for that. No, it's just like, I chose a job that matters, like construction, and you chose a job that's stupid, and that's your own dumb shit fault.
I thought, because they sort of hint at, because he and his sister bought it together, right? And they've got all this decor from their grandparents or whatever. I was like, this is the bit where they're going to do the grandparent reveal, where we find out about his granddad. It's like, you know, the house came from them or what, something. But no, I didn't get it.
Mike and Michelle, they seem like maybe they inherited the house from their grandparents or something.
That's what I thought as well.
And I was going to be like, oh, okay, so there'll be an interesting discussion where we could actually talk about privilege here, because it's like, he was able to inherit a house or whatever, but no, he just bought the house himself because Mike is perfect and he and Michelle can afford a house.
Yeah.
Because they chose sensible jobs and not stupid feminist jobs.
So this is an interesting bit because it reveals for the first time as well that Ricky actually did her undergraduate in business. And I was like, I've got to talk to Savvy about this bit because you are the business guru of my life.
I don't want to be a business guru.
You are my personal business guru. Okay, I just bought your Savvy business owner book.
You did? Oh, thank you. Oh, I hope you like it.
I'm so excited. But yeah, I like really wanted to talk to you about this because he's like really condescending to her about how business works, even though she studied business.
To be fair, I did not study business. I will be upfront about that.
He runs his construction business, so his expertise is valid. But like he's really rude to her about it. And they have this thing where he's just like, he's like, oh, business, that's a joke, right? Do you want to run mine? Then you'll find out how the real world works. And he's talking about money, and he's like, there, you see, so your socialism rubbish won't work. And then she's talking about like free education, and he's like, oh, free? So you'll teach for free, will you? So who pays your rent then? You didn't learn much in business school. And I was just like, free or affordable access to education is just a net positive for society, Mike. Like, what? Why are you so angry?
Is Mike unaware of public school? Did he not go to public school? Is he unaware that public school exists?
He's so angry that people are getting educated for free.
Has Mike never heard of public school? Like, what?
Or the idea that people, and I'm like, Germany educates people for free and they're doing really well. You got a very balanced, well-educated society of better equality because people have the same access.
I went to public school and I'm grateful that public school exists. Like, but so I will be honest and say, I do not have a business degree. I am like Mike, and I only know real world business experience. And I'm also like Ricky in that I have a master's degree in English, which is a stupid women thing to get a master's degree in.
True.
I also didn't pay for my master's degree. I did the graduate assistant thing, so I didn't have to pay for it. So that was nice. But this whole thing of like, this is basic economics. It's like they both have such a weirdly simplistic understanding of business and money, and it makes me think that like which partially I'm like, well, authors are all kind of small business owners too. So I'm like, this author probably knows more about this, unless like she doesn't. It's entirely possible that she's just new to this. Like, that's fine. But yeah, it's like weirdly simplistic where it's like, it's all either like full free market with no government involved in anything at all.
Yeah.
Or it is complete communism where your exact wages are predetermined for you by the government and you get a lump sum of money and you are not allowed to make anything more than that. There is no discussion of like, so first of all, I've been like, one thing that I've really liked a discussion of is like universal basic income, which you can keep some elements of the free market where people get to, you know, start their own businesses, you have free trade and make money on top of that, but also there would be an allocation of a certain amount of money that you have. I could see merits to that. I also see, I mean, you guys have better healthcare than we have here. I think it's not that doctors work for free when people get healthcare for free. It's that there's a bit bigger system in place that's like people pay tax. Like, does Mike not pay his taxes? Like, I don't know. Does Mike know what his taxes are going for?
That's the thing. Like, it was the healthcare bit, because this is basically trashing like free education, free healthcare, stuff like that. It's all these like talking points, and I was like, but like the US doesn't have a good record on health, like compared to a lot of its competitor countries. Like, it's got, you know, high rates of chronic disease. I'll have to find the article that I read about and link it, but they have fewer physician visits compared to their peers. And that's partly, and I talked about this on Twitter a little while ago, and the stories from people in the US avoiding the doctor because they can't afford the financial burden is like really upsetting. And it's like you say, you don't have to go full communism to have like affordable health care.
Extreme views. They're like, okay, since we're already making a caricature, let's make the feminist woman like a complete communist.
Yeah.
And then let's make the conservative man a complete like no government, like he'd be an anarchist if he didn't like the cops. This dude is an anarchist with cops. That's what this dude is. Like, so they've got like two complete extreme ends of a spectrum here, when in reality it's like, well, I think a lot of people on both on the right and on the left are often have a more mixed economy view of it. Like, I know even of the most right-leaning people I know very few who would want to get rid of public education. Like, that is insanity. That would be absolute social chaos. And so I know like very few, I mean, there are some like weirdos out there. But I'm like, that's pretty extreme. And then like, how far is he planning to take this? Like, does he not want the government to regulate medicine? Like, does he think that like we should all just like, if I make medicine, well, because I have actually heard some people on the extreme left saying this too, like there is some horseshoe theory to an extent when people get extreme enough.
It's just
they're just so overly simplified, where they're like
overly simplified, and they're such extreme ends of this spectrum, but where neither of the characters are really demonstrated to have an understanding of the kind of economy they believe. Like, if I don't know enough economics that if I was writing this book, I just wouldn't have this conversation in it, because I wouldn't be able to write either of their perspectives, because I don't know enough about like the socialism on one side or the, you know, this hardcore free market capitalism on the other side. So I just wouldn't write it, but it just makes both of the characters sound kind of stupid. I don't know.
They sound incredibly stupid. And that's the thing, is like she didn't really capture either of the perspectives, because I've listened to a lot of people argue in favor of capitalism and listen to people argue in favor of socialism and listen to people argue in favor of mixed economy models, and neither of them have any, like, I just read this is the most simplistic understanding. So she's talking about how she wants student loan forgiveness, and he's like, oh, so you'll teach for free? You didn't learn anything in business school. Who pays your rent? And she's like, she was saying that there's so much money in this country, the government should pay for healthcare, college, housing, everything. And then he's like, even an 8-year-old understands basic economics, which no, they don't. And then he was like, here's your weekly allowance, Johnny. Now give it back to me, because even though you thought you mowed the lawn, you didn't earn it, and I'm giving it to your sister. And she's like, no, it doesn't work that way. The government would give everyone the same amount of money. And then he's like, oh, I see. So if one of my guys gets paid the same amount as someone, like he's like, oh, so everyone gets paid the same regardless of how much work they do. And I'm like, you both have such like a dumbass understanding of how the world works, that like, and you're calling each other stupid. And I'm like, you're both really stupid. I guess you're meant for each other, because you're both,
they are kind of made for each other. So they're on like the way home. He's like driving her to her parents' house now that she's like de-greened and everything. And there's this bit, they're sort of bantering a bit, and it's getting like a little bit friendlier. And then he's just like, oh, you won't let people be nice to you, will you? And she's like, no, it's, you know, whatever. And he's like, is it because I'm a male chauvinist pig? And she like laughs and is like, yeah. And she says, it's why I wouldn't ask you to go out with me. And then he says, well, I make it a point not to date Nazis. And I was like,
wait, what?
Where did that come from?
I don't, yeah, wait, why so he called her a Nazi, right?
I think so. But I thought she was living in like a socialist Disneyland, according to him.
Well, a lot of people on the right accuse socialists of being Nazis because the original what the term Nazi stood for, like what it meant in German, like the full word was like National Socialist Party or something. Yes. So it was like Nazis had a form of socialism they were trying to implement in Germany. So a lot of people will like call people who are right leaning, they'll say you're a Nazi, and then they'll call each other a Nazi, which it's like, can everyone stop calling people just Nazis off at the drop of a hat? Like there are real Nazis in this world, and that is they are a very serious threat. So like, let's maybe save calling people Nazis for when they're actually that. Yes.
Yeah, I do. I have. Yeah, in hindsight, I have encountered people referring to the fact that Nazis were socialist. They weren't socialist. Socialism was like a front for Nazism, but that does make sense to me.
So but I'm saying there are some people who would say that. So I think that could be what he's referring to.
That does make more sense now.
But part of me thought maybe was she going to call him a Nazi because that's like a stereotype that like all leftists call Trump supporters Nazis or whatever.
Yeah, maybe he's joking about that. I don't know.
But like I thought maybe was that her line that she was supposed to say, and they just like did the dialogue tags wrong?
Did the dialogue wrong? Yeah,
I don't know. I'm really confused where that line came from.
But then the thing is, so he presumably, if I've got this right, is like, I don't want to date Nazis, and then she's just like takes that as the cue to kiss him.
That makes me think this might be a troll. That's why I think this could be trolling, because he's like, am I a male chauvinist pig? And she's like, yeah, you are. And he's like, yeah, well, you're a Nazi. And then she's like, let's make out. And I'm like, this has to be a troll, right? Like,
it's so amazingly weird. And weird. And so she's like playing and being all flirtatious, and he's like, you shouldn't have done that. And I was just like, oh my god, that's terrifying.
You shouldn't have done that. And she goes, I do a lot of things I shouldn't. I'm like, you should wait, what? I don't even understand what's going on. But anyway, they made out, so good for them.
And then she flounces away, which every time she gets out the car, she flounces away.
She has to flounce because that's how small women walk. If you're small enough, you flounce. True. You don't walk with like a sturdy, like,
because the car's so big, she has to like flounce out.
She has to flounce out the car because he has a big truck. He's a big man with a big truck, and his big truck has his big man rules. And then she gets out the truck and she's just like, wee, I am small.
So chapter 9.
So chapter 9, she writes the blog post where she just makes up a bunch of lies. She just lies about everything that happened because she went to a Trump rally and everyone was so nice and there was not a single rude person there. And because of that, she had to just lie about everything to impress the feminists.
And she has this like the ends justify the means kind of thing where she's like justifying it to herself on the inside. She's like, well, we've got to spread the message of whatever our message is. So lying is fine.
You know what? Here's the thing, though. She could have, like, if this were a better book, she could have actually done an interesting blog post, assuming that everyone really was super nice at this Trump rally, where she could have done a really interesting blog post that's like, so people at a Trump rally are all really nice. And because of that, they probably genuinely think that they're good people having a good impact on the world. And that can be an examination of how, from our own perspectives, we're all the heroes in our own stories. And we all think that we're right because a lot of us aren't opening our perspectives to see what other things in the world are happening. Here's some examples of certain policies of Trump's and how they have hurt certain groups of people. These people at this rally are not trying to be evil. They're actually very nice, but they are completely ignorant of the fact that they are hurting these people by supporting Trump. And so let's open up a discussion about that. But no, we're not going there. Instead, she's just going to lie.
Well, the thing is, in this book, everyone is such a hardcore stereotype and cliche.
Yeah.
Ricky hasn't opened her mind to any alternate perspectives, so she can't think outside of the box. And the feminist group is a cult that will only accept like men are evil, and if you know someone in the police, then you are evil. And they do this like public shaming of this girl in the feminist club because I think her dad's a police officer, and they're like, because your dad is part of the police,
you will now experience a public execution. Like, they don't kill her, but like they might as well have.
She's shunned for 90 days.
She's shunned for 90 days, and Karen, the roommate Karen, whose name is literally Karen, is so excited. She's like, oh my God, I love it when we shun people. It's so fun. I love to bully people. It's like, there's like no nuance here. There's like no self-awareness. Everybody's just like, yeah, I love it when we're mean. I love being a bitch.
It's full on, like, they keep saying it's cult-like. They do all these creepy cult things. When the woman is getting like expelled or whatever, the head reads from like a scroll. It's such an amazing cult thing. But also I think this is actually the next chapter, because that previous chapter is super short.
It's short. She writes the blog post, and then
she's like reading it out at the feminist,
and then she reveals information. They're like, oh, who was the guy that you met there? And then she tells them about his construction business, and that doxes him, and they find out where he works. They figure it out.
Exactly.
Because these feminists are ruthless, and every time you mention a man that you don't like, they're going to make it their mission to track him down.
They're going to get right on the phone to Antifa, and they're going to pay
Antifa to do this, because Antifa is paid by the feminist organization. Which is wild, because Mike just said that feminists don't make any money because that's not how the real world works. So where are they getting the money to pay Antifa from?
Rich parents?
Maybe,
because Ricky makes a point of calling out the leader's hypocrisy in like having the meeting in a big mansion and everything.
Oh, because her family's rich.
Yeah. So that could be a real thing. I thought it was really funny that Ricky is like watching this woman get like extradited from this feminist cult, and Ricky's like panicking because her dad is an avid outdoorsman and hunter. And I was like, even if they had a problem with him being a hunter, I think being an outdoorsman would probably be fine.
I mean, like, yeah, thinking about like an outdoor, like so many feminists are outdoors people.
What does that mean?
What are you talking
he goes
about?
For walks and chops wood. Oh no.
Oh no. Dad was a lumberjack lesbian all along.
Oh, and then this gets really weird. There's a really weird characterization in here. So she and Karen go home, and Ricky like stops to pick up the mail and bumps into the building super that she's like friendly with. Jack, a man of color, one of the oppressed, loves Trump. Big Trump fan, and she's Trump. she's like, he's a man of color, he's oppressed, he should know better. And it's like really weird and creepy. And I was like, do you know what? Like, white activist lady claiming to know what's best for a person of color is really on track for this character. That makes sense.
And it kind of fits. It's why she and Mike fit together so well, because he's a man who thinks he knows what's best for women, and she's a white woman who thinks she knows what's best for people of color, and so they can just be morally superior together. Except
they can be
Mike
an
gets to be the more together. Morally superior one because he's a man.
Yeah. As long as she gets to be superior over other people. Yeah,
I thought this was interesting when they were in the feminist club and they were like outcasting the girl whose dad is in the police. They have all of these, like, the feminist group is portrayed very clearly as a cult, but then they use these church parallels, and I'm like, is this a troll trying to subtly imply that the church has cult-like elements too? Or is this just complete lack of self-awareness? I don't know, because on page 54, so she's like, did Melissa know ahead of time that this was going to happen? And she's like, nobody knows ahead of time. We have to come to terms with our sins. We have to do penance. The shunning is painful, but then it ends. It reminds you to be mindful of your privilege. And it's like, is that supposed to be like a parallel to like how the church, shuns you for your sins and things like that?
Or it could. There's a potential that it could just be still trying to get that cult-like vibe across, just because most cults tend to be religious. It could be like accidentally making like church comparisons by trying to still compare this to a cult. It totally depends on who the author is.
Because if the author's a troll, that's like a brilliant move to sneak that in there and be subtly like, hey, actually look, the church is a big cult too. So we'll Jack, the man of color who loves Trump, read her blog post and he was like, that wasn't cool, you lied, I was at the rally, it was very fun and everyone there was very nice.
Everyone was so nice, there was not
everyone
a single
was
racist.
Perfect. There was never a single rude person at the Trump rally other than the Antifa protesters, who were evil but easy to take down because they are all small.
Yes, they were. It was a terrifying riot, but also they are weekend baby. Like, I don't.
I think honestly, again, if this author is trolling, that's absolutely hilarious. And it's like showing the contrast in the characterization that like, oh, all people on the left are wimpy and getting rid of real masculinity and have no real strength, but also they're like terrifying Antifa people, and so they have them at the same time. They have this guy just like, look at how violent they're trying to be, I'm gonna take them out with my manpower. Like, that's actually really hilarious.
It's amazing. So she's like ready to go and answer. She spends like an hour just answering all the comments on her blog, and then her mum texts her and is like, we need to talk. And it's like dun dun dun, it's the first dramatic moment. So then it's chapter 11, and this is like a very mini chapter.
It's literally
it's
page
like a
long.
page,
like it's this page, and then it's like if you combine this part with this part, it's literally at one total page is this chapter.
It's because it's like a little internal moment when Ricky's traveling to her parents, and she like can't stop thinking about her kiss with Mike. I say with Mike, she sort of landed it on him suddenly. And then she's like thinking about her newfound fame, and she's even been booked on a podcast this very same day. And I was like, and
when did that happen? Like, how did your blog get so many hits so fast? Like, this book has no idea how hard blogging is. And why did they arrange an interview like that night? And I was just like, well, who has the energy to do that many big social speaking things in one day? Right.
But also, like, I thought that would be brought up for a reason. Like, I thought maybe when she had her change of heart, she was going to go on the podcast that she had booked and say, but the podcast is never brought up again.
No, I think the author just forgot that she even
it's just like, oh yeah, she's so famous, she's going to be on a podcast, and then it's never brought up again.
Never brought up again.
And that's it. She just like goes to her parents, and it's
she goes to her parents, and when she gets to her parents' house, Mike is there. Mike, and at first I was like, wait, how do you know where she lived? And then I remembered, like, oh, that was set up. He did have to drive her home before, so we were good.
Yeah.
But I like how it's described. Mike's beefy, very black super cab pickup truck. Yes. This is a beefy man with a beefy truck.
I put a note here because I was like, I need to know if you've ever heard a vehicle described as beefy before, because
never. I lived in the US. I live in the Midwestern US, and I have never once heard someone describe their truck as beefy.
Good. I'm glad it's not just me.
Well, I mean, maybe some people do, and I just haven't met them. I don't know, but Mike's got a beefy truck. He's got a real beefy machine.
She goes in, and they're like, okay, Mike came over and has been talking to us. Her dad's like, we've been talking to Mike, and then he and Mike's like look at each other and nod in a masculine, purposeful way.
Let's put this woman in her place together. Yeah,
the man nod.
Yep, they know. Men just
your
know
daughter has betrayed me. Yeah. And the other thing that I really like about this, that I think was like, it's a tiny thing, but it's good, is that her parents, who she describes as being like an older generation, a bit more traditional, they've printed out her blog post and like show it to her on a piece of paper, and I'm like, that is such like an older parents thing to do.
They absolutely do. Look at this, we printed look at this blog post,
look at this email I printed.
We visited Tyler's grandma recently, and she had printed out this chain of emails from her like retirement community, because she was upset that the retirement community wasn't checking to make sure everyone was vaccinated and wasn't caring about COVID. So she would print out every email, and she had like this folder, and she's like, look at this folder of emails, I have all my evidence. I'm like, this is great, this is such a grandma thing.
I love it, it's so amazing. Well, this is where they reveal like Mike has been doxxed, and people, Antifa, I guess, these punks, Antifa, it's revealed that it was the feminist cult that doxed them. I think it's supposed to be Antifa that has attacked.
Because the feminist cult is all women, so they're too small to do anything.
They can't do anything. They need
some men from Antifa to do some damage, but not so much damage that Mike can't handle it, because he's bigger than all of them.
Yeah. He's like ranting and raving. He's like, it's crawling with punks. And again, I'm like, poor punks, leave them out of this. And he's like, you lied about me, and he's rightfully like really peeved. And he's like, I kept you from getting hurt, we ate together, we had coffee. And I'm like, nobody knows about the stalking yet. Nobody knows that he was like stalking her for a day because he fell in love with her at first sight.
I know, yeah, but this is never going to be brought up. I like that page 65 has like the most annoying romance novel and movie cliche of all time. And I don't know if this was done on purpose or if this book is just that cliche, but it's like, she's apologizing to him and she's like, I'm so sorry, Mike. I'm so sorry. I never thought this would happen. And he's like, yeah, you never thought.
Yeah.
For people like, I'm sorry, I didn't think this would happen. And he's like, yeah, you didn't think. Like, that's such a romance cliche that gets so annoying. Just like, yeah, you're right, you didn't think. And like,
yeah.
So he's like, yeah, you're right. God. You never thought.
Oh my
God. So then she goes home and writes a new blog post about how handsome and big and amazing and strong Mike is and how she lied.
Oh, don't forget first, Mike's like, you know, she says sort of sorry or whatever. And Mike's like, I gotta go talk to the police. Or like he gets a phone call and they're like, oh, the police are at the job site. They're going to want to talk to you. And then he goes to his truck and takes out a revolver. And I'm like, is he going to use that against the police? What's happening? He like gets a gun from a compartment in his truck and like puts it within easy reach. And I'm just like, why is America so crazy with guns? This is so bizarre. Yeah, all right, I've got to go.
Is he trying to defend himself against the police? I don't know.
It's really bizarre. But then, sorry, yes, like you say, she goes and writes another blog post, and I like this bit where it's like this real classic straw man of what a feminist is. And she's like, as I grew into adulthood, I quashed the dream of every little girl who wants to marry her handsome prince. No feminist wants you to be happy or marry your handsome prince.
Right? I don't know. I never really was like into the handsome prince thing. I liked princess movies as a kid, but I mostly just like admired their clothes. I'd be like, I want to dress like her.
Yeah.
She is cute and I want to dress like her. And then I'd see the prince and I'd be like, whatever, I don't care about him. He'd take him or leave him.
I really liked, my favorite was the Black Cauldron, where Princess Eilonwy is like such an iconic, like she's like the princess and he's like the hero who has the magic sword and like saves the day, but she's still like, excuse me, I'm kind of magic and I'm kind of cool, so I'm going to come along and do this adventure with you, and you are not here to save me. I am here to do shit myself, thank you. So that was my jam. And they take a brief second at the end of this chapter in her blog, and she's like, he saved me from being completely taken over by the raving lunacy of what we call feminism today. I renounce that.
She renounces it. She's publicly like, I am declaring that I am no longer a feminist.
I would now like to be a trad wife married to Mike, and that is my entire personality has shifted within the space of about 20 minutes. I was excited to go onto a podcast to talk about feminism when I was on the train here, but now no more.
No more. I feel bad. I did one bad thing, and now I realize that all of feminism is bad.
Yeah, everything that I ever believed must
I think it's just
be
like
bad.
Ricky's just such a bad characterization of a feminist. I think that maybe that could be the commentary that this book is trying to make, which is that feminists don't really know what they want. Feminists are just following a crowd and they don't actually have any real convictions. But it's like, I guess maybe talk to a real feminist first.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, that would I would kind of be fine with that if it was portrayed as that is what Ricky is like. Because she is, I think I wrote in my notes, she's such a like sheep. She just kind of goes with what people say she should believe without really knowing why. Yeah, she's kind of like a
Dave Rubin type.
Yeah.
Like Dave Rubin, who's like, I used to be on the left. And then I realized that I was just I didn't have any facts. And then someone gave me some facts and it completely changed my mind. I'm like, then why
he has like a 5-minute conversation and changes his beliefs. Did you just like not have
I don't know, grifting in his case, I think, so he can make more money, but like it's like that kind of thing where it's like, did you ever really have any reason for believing this in the first place? And is the message that like all feminists only believe these things because other feminists tell them to? And it's like, but where did the other feminists get their beliefs from?
But then also
being paid by Antifa, I'm really lost.
Everyone's being paid by Antifa. No, everyone's paying Antifa.
Everyone's paying Antifa, but who's paying the feminists?
I'm so confused. But she doesn't have any convictions when she completely changes to the trad wife MAGA side either.
Yeah,
she's still just like, well, I really want to be with Mike, so now I believe whatever he believes.
Right, Ricky just has like she's getting a master's degree in gender studies. You'd think she'd have some passion, but instead she's just like, yeah, she just has no like actual beliefs or thoughts. She and Mike both have empty heads, so that's why they'll end up happy together in the end.
Yeah. And maybe they'll be happy. It's fine.
They'll be happy just having nothing in their head and just being like, truck, go, vroom, vroom.
Yeah.
It's going to be the rest of their life.
Big beefy man.
Beefy truck,
nice
beefy man, small lady with small hands. Oh, that'll be like the poem that he writes her for their first Valentine's Day. Like, I am beefy truck. I am beefy man. You are tiny woman. Women have tiny hands. That'll be the poem he writes her, and that's how he proposes.
Okay, so all right, chapter 13.
Chapter 13.
Ricky, she has her tattoo appointment today.
Yes.
And she's like so excited about it. So she gets up early.
And that's where I got confused, because I was like, wait, why is she getting the tattoo if she's gonna, like, if she's denouncing feminism? Because I thought the tattoo was related to the feminist club, but apparently the tattoo is unrelated.
I think it's separate. I think this is just something
she's just getting it because she wants it. Okay, fair enough.
And she's basically, and it's kind of like a normal character thing that kind of actually made sense to me in this chapter. And it was like, she's wanted this her whole life. Her views have changed, but she's saved up and she's proud to have saved up. So she really wants to get this tattoo today. And I was like, that makes sense. I respect that. And so she's trying to go to where her actual apartment where she lives with Karen is, and there's like a mob outside. She says sometimes she had participated in acts of protests when right-wingers spewed particularly vicious hate speech. And I was like, that is the first time that someone on the right-wing side that they've acknowledged that they could ever do anything bad that isn't like super nicey nice.
Right. So like she went to the Trump rally and everyone was nice. So where did she get the idea that right-wingers were spewing hate speech from? And then she admits that they do spew hate speech and she's seen that. So then I'm like, so maybe that was just one particularly nice rally you went to. Like,
exactly.
You've seen the hate speech before. Why didn't you write about that in your blog?
Why did that have to change everything?
What's actually happening here?
So she calls Karen and she's like, is there any safe way into the building so I can drop off? She's got like ice and stuff after her tattoo and she needs to grab her money. But Karen,
do people usually ice tattoos after they get them?
I don't know. I've never had a tattoo.
I've had 11 tattoos and I've never iced any of them.
Oh, well, she's got ice that is apparently for after her tattoo.
You usually want to put like Aquaphor or some kind of ointment on it afterwards. You want to wash it with antibacterial soap twice a day and put ointment on it. I've never iced it. Like when I got my big spine like back tattoo with all the colors done, like every couple minutes they would, use this like cool liquid that would wash out. That was kind of like, washing it out and washing some of the ink away and making sure you keep, because it's like when they do colors, they drill a lot in on top of it. So you get a lot of bleeding and stuff. But I don't think I've ever iced a tattoo. Maybe it's just me, but I've gotten them at multiple different tattoo shops and no one's ever told me to ice one. So, because
I was thinking that could be an interesting like addition to the is it a troll or not thing, because if they are like very traditional anti-tattoo, then that would be like quite an easy mistake to make, maybe.
Because I don't think this author probably has never gotten a tattoo before.
So that could be interesting.
I don't know, maybe some people ice their I won't say, because like sometimes people tell me to care for them differently depending on where I get them done. There's like people tell you like slightly different things to do, so maybe some people ice them. I don't know. I've never iced a tattoo before though.
Tattoo havers and or tattoo artists in the comments, please.
Yeah, tattoo artists in the comments, let us know. Is icing tattoos normal? Because I've
a thing?
Yeah.
But so she's got to drop off some supplies for after the tattoo, and she's got to pick up her money. But Karen has gone like full cult because she's been in the feminist group for 6 months now, and she calls Ricky a fascist. And she's like, your membership in the feminist cult and our friendship is over, so I'm not going to help you. Goodbye. So Ricky has to call Mike because she has no one else to help her. She really wants this tattoo. And she's like, Mike loves vulnerable women. So if I call him and say that I'm scared and cry, maybe he'll help. And he does. He's like, okay, fine. Go to my house. Yeah, because
he's like still mad at her. He's like, you've ruined my life and my career. And she's like, but I'm vulnerable and small, uwu. And he's like, okay, I'll help. Anything to help a small woman be small.
Yeah. I had a writing question about this chapter as well for you.
Sure.
It's either a writing thing or it's my reading comprehension isn't very good. So when she's calling Mike, it says she prayed for the first time in a long time he would apply his grandfather's rules to her now, despite his anger if she asked him to. And I read that and I was like, that kind of, to me, when I read that, it sounds like she's previously prayed for Mike's grandfather's rules to apply to her now. And I got very confused.
Yeah, I think it's trying to say she prayed.
He prayed
for the first time in a long time. For the first time in a long time is supposed to just apply to praying. She prayed for the first time in a long time. Where is, let me look at where that is, because I would maybe punctuate it differently. Yeah, I would punctuate it differently. I would probably, and this is, I'm not saying that this is a hard and fast rule, but here's what I think is, if she maybe had used an M dash instead of a colon, not colon, comma, if she used an M dash instead of a comma, I think that might have done a little better, because it's like, the sentence is supposed to be, she prayed that he would apply to his grandfather's rules to her now, and then the modifier for the first time in a long time is supposed to just apply to prayed. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's grammatically wrong with the commas there, but I think that if you put an M dash, it might more emphasize that for the first time in a long time is a little insert meant to apply just to like a side note on her not having prayed in a long time. Yeah. And then, because right now with the commas there, the flow of it kind of implies that a little bit. So I kind of see what you're saying. I don't think there's like a hard, fast linguistic rule on how to do it either way. And maybe someone has a different opinion on that than me. I don't know, but I think I would probably punctuate it with an M dash instead, just to
well, for dinguses like me, it did make it a bit hard when I was first reading it. I was like
I can see that, because it does kind of sound like that, to say like she prayed for the first time in a long time he would apply his grandfather's rules to her now, because she's never, it's making it sound like in the past couple days since she's met Mike, that she's prayed about his grandfather before. She never has. I think she probably prayed as a child and then gave up religion or whatever.
I assume that's what it meant.
I would probably just word it differently and be like, for the first time in a long time she prayed, semicolon, she prayed that Mike would apply his grandfather's rules. I would probably do it that way just to clear it up.
That would make sense to me. So he like agrees. He's like super still really pissy, but he's like, well, okay, fine, go and wait at the house with Michelle, and then I'll come and pick you up. And she's like, it says, for the second time she was under his protection, it was a feeling she could get used to, and she wished for more of it. And I just wanted to like, for more of him.
She wants to see if he has a dick as big as his hands.
The size of his body, the size of his muscles, and the size of his car. I don't know, if we're going full stereotype and cliche, I would not be hopeful in that direction. Like, it feels like overcompensation.
Mike is overcompensating. He has a very tiny wiener.
It doesn't matter, because he's a man's man.
It doesn't matter. He's a man. If you have a small wiener, it doesn't matter. Women still have to want to fuck you because you protect them.
Yes. Well, so she's like, she wants more of this feeling. And it's the second time he's protected her and she loves it. And I just wanted to clarify, like, both the events where she's needed protection were meant to be like harrowing. Like, it's her being attacked and then potentially attacked by a mob. Like, again, the first time she got kicked in the ribs by them, it was like a huge fight. There was like fire in the distance. Right. And yet now, because she fancies Mike, she's like, I love it. Like, the fear doesn't really come in. It's not like they're like, we don't want this to happen because it's scary and could be dangerous. She's like, yes, Mike gets to protect me. And I just thought that was a super weird, like, that again was like I can see a man writing that from a woman's perspective. If it's a woman writing that, then I feel like that's got to be a troll, because it's just,
maybe it's just a fetish.
It could.
Every time something weird comes up, I'm like, maybe it's your fetish. Maybe this is her fetish.
That could just be it.
She likes the thrill. That would explain of having so much protected. Of the book. Yeah, this is just a role play fetish for both of them.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's it. I don't kink shame. Have fun. And then she goes to hang out with Michelle.
Michelle is again the best.
Michelle is the best, and it's just like, I know you ruined my brother's life, but I'm here for you because I'm a good person.
She's just like, I understand you. I see what you've been through. I can tell you're actually a good person. And I'm just like, none of the characters in this book deserve Michelle. I like that it specifies that Ricky is wearing her most conservative clothes today. Like, overnight, she's like trashed her wardrobe, and her days of ripped jeans, Savvy, and black nails and tinted hair were now in the past.
She's not just a pair of low slung jeans walking along the train to the anymore. Subway. She's not just a floating pair of pants. Now she is a full woman with round boobies.
Yes.
With full round,
well-shaped
boobies.
Boobs.
Well-shaped boobs. That's what she is.
I also just love the way this book talks about time is so like almost childlike and bizarre. It's like, so like in this bit, they're like, her days of this were in the past. And it's like, but that was yesterday.
That was like, wait, was that
those
was that
days were
yesterday?
a day ago. Yeah. all of the span of this book takes place over like a week.
Right. So I'm like, your days of this were over. Your day of this was like yesterday when you were on the train strange. Until Mike confronted you at your parents' house.
Yeah, it's really weird. Oh, and this is Michelle's thing. She's like, when you didn't want to wear those colors to your parents' house, I knew you were a good person. And I was just like, why is wearing the right clothes in front of your parents the most important thing to both Mike and Michelle? I knew you were
a good person. Well, because it's from them. She's like, my parents don't like this. And they're like, oh, you do what your parents like, even if it's not what you like. That makes you a good person because you respect your elders. That's the idea. Yeah.
That's godly, and therefore that's good.
Yeah, like, I knew you were clothes. A good person because you washed your hair in my sink.
Like, she then did an awful thing to your brother, but she washed out her green hair. So this
book is very shallow. It's like, you washed your green hair out. You ruined my brother's life with your lies. That's okay. You just need to be rescued from feminism. The fact that you were willing to wash the green out of your hair, that shows that you have some decency.
Yeah, shows you're a good person. Unbelievable.
So then, so chapter 16 is like Ricky and Mike. Ricky's like, I want to see you again, Mike. So this is before he reads her blog post. He still hasn't read it, so he still thinks that she's a bitch. So then he's like, we don't belong together. We're too different. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I can't do it your way. Guys ask girls. Girls don't ask guys. So it's like, he's rejecting her not because she made a blog post that ruined his life. He's rejecting her because she asked him on a date. Like, if she said no, he just wants to be the one to ask, which is such a weird reason to turn someone down. Like, this is the thing that people had asked me in the past, right? Like, so I guess the world, like I've said, I don't always pick up on social cues the best. So I don't always notice when things are like sexist or whatever. So I proposed to Tyler, not because I was making a feminist statement, but because I had a fun idea for our proposal. It was Back to the Future Day, which is October 21st, 2015. That's the day they arrive in Back to the Future Part 2. So I made him a time travel themed proposal where I put little, I had my model DeLoreans, I put little clues in them and took him on a little scavenger hunt.
That's so cute.
And then I proposed to him, and I thought it was a cute idea, so I might as well do it because I have a cute idea, so I'll do it. And people would ask me, they're like, oh, is he okay with that? I'm like, what do you think? He's going to say, no, I'm not going to marry you? Like, he's going to change his mind about the trajectory of the future of his life because he wanted to be the one to do it? Like, what kind of dumb shit relationship would that be?
And I'm like, most of my friends who have gotten married have, like, some of them it's been a bit of a surprise, but most of them both people have talked to each other and agreed that they want to get married within a certain amount of time, and then it's like one of them will propose in the future, and it's like they already know they're going to get married, so it doesn't matter who gets there first with the question.
Right, like, why so is it weird? It's like, okay, he's like, I rejected you because I wanted to be the one to ask, and you took that away from me. So bye, bitch. It's like, wait, what? That's such a weird reason to not want to be with someone because you wanted to be the one to ask.
Yeah, if you really wanted to ask and you had a romantic idea or something, then just ask again. Have
So weird.
I wrote, I don't care how old-fashioned you are, if the gorgeous woman you've been completely obsessed over asks to see you again, you don't reject her because it's not the done thing. You say yes. He spent a day stalking her because he fell in love with her at first sight. Why is he saying no?
Because Mike is stupid. This whole book is based on the fact that these characters are really stupid.
They have to be stupid. I will just point out, because I think we skipped chapter 15. Chapter 15 was another really short one. It's basically just Ricky being like, I'm definitely having my tattoo. I want my tattoo.
So then Ricky's going to get her tattoo, and now it's a race against the clock for Mike to get there in time to stop her from getting her tattoo. So Mike goes back, and Michelle's like, you should be with Ricky. And he was like, no, she's a bitch. And Michelle's like, read the blog post. So here's what Mike says to Michelle. She's like, you should see Ricky again. And he's like, no, look who she is. I don't want a girl like that. She colors her hair weird, runs around with man-hating females. She lies. And I'm like, one of these things is not like the others here, dude.
I know.
One of these things is different.
I said the
same thing. You fell in love with her with the weird colored hair in the first place. It says so in the book.
Yeah. And I kind of put these things are totally fair. If you've just met someone and you don't really like their style, you don't vibe with it, that's fine. Yeah. But the fact that colors her hair weird comes before lied and ruined my business. I'm just like, why are your priorities
and then her sister
weird?
like doesn't even care about the ruining her business part. Like they don't give a shit about that part. She's like, your business will survive, she's a keeper, get with her.
Yeah.
And Mike is like, she's a freak and I don't do freaks. And I'm like, you literally fell in love with her looking the weird way. And then Michelle was like, but when's the last time she even looked that way? It was like, when you fell in love with her in the first place?
The last time she looked that way was like 2 days ago. I still don't, it's like it's been years. Everyone's treating a day like a year in this book. I'll just point out, so there, Mike is really in a bad mood in this chapter, and he basically like comes home and is like, oh damn, my sister's home. He keeps trying to get her to leave, even though she lives there. And I'm just like, Mike, if you're in such a bad mood and you don't want to be around people, why don't you leave? Like, go to the gym or take a walk or something. He keeps being like, just leave. Can't you go somewhere?
Drive around town.
She lives there.
Truck.
Yeah.
You have a beefy truck all to yourself. Drive around town in it.
And there's this amazing bit, because what she's doing is she's got an idea for some new nice piece of traditional decor. And so she's getting him to help, and she asks him to clean a drawer. And he's like, he can't do it. It says it was women's work. Not that he minded helping his sister, but this task required small hands and a nimble touch, not the stubby logs his fingers felt like. Like, he tries to lift out a tray and can't do it because it's women's work. He like drops it on the floor.
Like, yeah, this book is like, the reason that certain jobs like cleaning are for women is that real men have hands that are too big to do these jobs.
Big to lift out drawers.
Physically can't clean out the drawer because his hand is too beefy to do it properly. His sister, who is a twin, has tiny little baby hands, because even though they're twins, she is completely different from him.
Yeah. And I was like, you could so easily write this from the other perspective and be like, this was man's work because the utensil drawer was too heavy for her to lift out. His manly hands needed to. And I was like, why is it that he can't, like, men can't remove utensils from drawers and clean them? I just wanted to bring that up because
the blog post, and he's like, oh my God, I need Ricky. I need her back in my life. And then Michelle's like, well, you better hurry because she's about to go get a tattoo and that could ruin everything. And Mike goes, what? I don't like tattoos on women. And that line was like, this is a troll. Like, that, I was like, this has to be trolling, because does Mike like tattoos on men? I think he later says he doesn't like them on men either, but he likes them on women even less. I guess because from his perspective, if you're a man, you could get a tattoo when you serve in the military. He doesn't say that, but like, that's where I'm gathering that he's like, you could get a tattoo serving in the military as a man to commemorate that. But a woman would have no reason to get a tattoo because tattoos are for tough men in the military and no one else. That's what I gathered.
Like, I was reading this and I was like, I never understand, like, because there are people who genuinely have this take. I've seen a lot of comments online from people that are like, I just don't like tattoos on women. And I'm always like, it's like saying you don't like music, you know? It's like a tattoo could be, it could be in different places on your body. It could be text. It could be imagery in a million different art styles by different unique artists. Like, how can you claim you don't like any tattoo without seeing what the tattoo is?
All of my tattoos are like super different too.
It's so like, bizarre.
If you don't like tattoos, like, if that's not your thing, like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's you. But like, if someone else wants them, don't, like, he's like, the way that this makes me feel like this could be trolling is the way he's like, so I don't like tattoos on women. And he's like, I've got to talk her out of it. Did you tell her how I feel about them? Like, I'm sorry, what? Mike expects his sister to be like, oh, actually don't get the tattoo because if you and Mike are planning to get back together, he's not going to like it, actually.
It's really weird that is what he expects. And I'm just like, he doesn't know what it is. And I'm just like, there's probably instances where I wouldn't love a tattoo on a partner. Like, if you got a massive turd on your forehead, I might be a bit like put off by it.
Yeah. If you got like a bunch of intense face tattoos, although I've seen some people with face tattoos where I think they look fine. Really cool. So it really depends on what it is. And on the context, I would never get a face tattoo, but like some people might, and that's their choice.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know.
Like, so in chapter 18, she's like in the tattoo parlor ready to get the tattoo, and she describes it, and it's the capital letter R in elaborate feminine script combined into the stem and leaves of a large, very red rose, Ricky's favorite flower.
That sounds very pretty. I would actually love that tattoo.
Pretty is described as feminine and lovely. Like, I feel like if Mike, I mean, I don't know, but I almost feel like if Mike had actually looked at the design and like where it's going and whatever, then he might have been like, oh, that is quite nice and pretty, actually. Like, there's just no room to even know what the tattoo is. It doesn't matter. They're all bad.
They're all bad. Yep.
Super strange. And then obviously Mike comes in. He comes in, but he doesn't like run straight over or anything. He looks around, maybe inspecting the construction work for quality. I was like, what? Does he do that everywhere?
It's established earlier because he's like, where's she getting the tattoo? And Michelle's like, at Covington, which I guess is the name of the tattoo shop, which sounds very British for like a very American like tattoo parlor.
Right.
But and then he's like that dump. So apparently the place is a shitty place. And that's why he's like, let me inspect the construction work. I don't want this place to cave in on my woman while she's getting her tattoo done.
Is that what he's worried about?
He has to inspect the construction first.
So she actually gets to speak to him, and he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I want to get this tattoo. And he says, why? Because everyone has one. And I was like, that is super rude and lame for someone she just met and is not dating. Like, that's such
and
a
also
red flag.
Most people don't have tattoos, so like what's the everyone has one? Like,
yeah,
tattoos are not in the majority. I don't think. I
think
more people don't have tattoos than do. So
and even if you were like, because it's a popular style that I like, who cares? That's still her reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's like, I wanted one since I was 8. And he's like, yeah, but that was before me. And it's like, yeah, when she was 8 was before you, but like, what does it matter? And he says, women shouldn't have tattoos. I don't like them at all, especially not on women. He like punctuates the sentence with women either side.
That's what makes me feel like maybe this is trolling. Like, he doesn't like them at all, but especially not on women. Like, I don't know.
And it's just like, you know, he's just like, I live my grandfather's values, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, it's permanent. It scars. If it scars every time, then he's been watching like bad tattoo shows, I think.
I don't have any scars from any of my tattoos.
Like, scarring can happen. It's like,
well, I guess maybe she's going to a place that's described as a dump. Maybe she should go to a better tattoo shop.
Maybe
Tattoos
he should pay for her to have a nicer tattoo.
Yeah, you don't want to cheap out on tattoos, because that's how you get infections. You got to do tattoos safely. Yeah, but no, it doesn't. It shouldn't scar if you get it done right. It's permanent, sure. I mean, they're permanent. Nothing's permanent but death. Like, tattoos you can get removed. Like, it's not, it's a process to get them removed.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't you sometimes have like little scarring left from the removal. I've never gotten a tattoo removed, but like but it's possible. It gets done.
Yeah.
Like,
and
so
I think she's having her tattoo on her hip. And I don't know what that area is like, but like, I know a lot of people that have had their hands and their fingers tattooed, and those really fade. You have to get those, like, you have to get colors and stuff reapplied a lot because they fade so fast. So like, it's not even always permanent anyway. But so whatever, he has this weird view of tattoos, and he's like, it scars. It's disrespectful to the perfect body that God gave you. And I'm just like, I was like, what if God gave you a scar and you wanted to like decorate that or cover that with a tattoo? Is that
I would say my tattoos are like, I have a tattoo on my spine, right? That is, I have scoliosis. Yeah, I
love that tattoo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So
really
my tattoo, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's like my full back is tattooed with a curved spine with flowers around it. And for me, it's like, it's respectful to, I mean, I'm not sure that God gave me this body, but like, if there is a God and he gave me this body, then it's even more respectful, because my spine has been curved for my whole life. It's been a disability that I've had that has involved like having a lot of back problems, and I've had a lot of physical issues and disabilities as a child with walking and things like that because of my body being so uneven and having 2 curves and all of these things. So I got a tattoo that shows that off and is like, look, this is a thing that could be a flaw, but I was like, I'm going to get my curved spine tattooed along the spine. I'm going to get the bi flag colors around it, because it's like, my spine's not straight and I'm not straight, but you don't have to be straight to be perfect. And so that was me saying, I love myself the way God made me.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can absolutely honor the body that God gave you with a tattoo.
Of course you can. Yeah. But then
it's so like, that's such an overly simplistic view of everything. Once again,
it's an overly simplistic view that demonstrates that the character doesn't actually know much about what they're talking about. It's just like, it comes from, because his grandfather felt that way.
His grandfather didn't like tattoos, so obviously he doesn't like tattoos. Like, you just do everything your grandpa says, dude.
Yeah, he literally
like, what if your grandpa was an asshole? Do you still have to follow him just because he's grandpa?
You have to follow somebody else. You have to follow Mike's grandfather.
Do you seek out women that look like your grandma to marry because you have to follow what grandpa did?
So weird. Oh, and this is the bit where he admits, right, that he fell in love with her at the beginning. He says, I love you, Ricky. I fell in love with you when I first helped you through the trolley car door that day. Green hair, black lipstick and all. I kept watch over you that day. So first of all, he actually admits, although not in explicit detail, the stalking thing, and she's fine with it.
He's like, yeah, I stalked you all day. That's how much I love you.
I fell in love with you immediately. This is not a red flag. I'm not a creepy stalker. It's fine.
Right? How do you, what?
But yeah, he fell in love with her then with the dark makeup and the green hair, but he won't go out with her now if she gets this tattoo. The one that she's like booked and the tattoo artist is there with her supplies and she's wanted her entire life.
With the green hair, but he then said later that he wasn't going to go out with her because she was a freak for having green hair. But that's when he fell in love with her. And then also he rejected her because she asked him if they could see each other again. And he said, no, I'm the one who asks that. So absolutely not.
I felt like with this bit, I felt like he's changing now that he knows that she loves him and he's got her cooked. Oh my God.
He's got her cooked.
That's because my partner just messaged and said, shall I start cooking a sausage?
He's got her cooked. He's gonna baste her like a turkey with his cock.
Oh my God, let's go start thinking about dinner. No, because now he's got her hooked. He's like changing his standards. He's like, well, actually, I won't be with you unless you don't get this tattoo. And it's like, what a douchebag. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like back when he was still trying to win her over, he was more lenient with her. And then now that he's like, oh, now that she has some investment in me, I can be a little manipulative. I can try to bargain for what I want. I'm like, Mike is the worst.
Yes.
Ricky's not that great either, though. So I'm kind of glad that they're together so that they can save the rest of the world from having to be with either of them.
I often think that, like, you know, when you get you've got these two crazy opposing extremes, it's like they might as well be together.
Like, right? Like, you guys suck. So like, don't make this the rest of our problem.
And I just love how this book ends. This is the only part of it that, because like I say, I had a great time reading this. This is the only part that sort of disappointed me. Like, she's like, okay, promise me we'll discuss it another time, but I won't do it right now. And he pays the tattoo artist for the inconvenience. And then he's like, do you want to go get food? And then that's it.
They go back to the diner. Yep. And that's the end of the book.
That's like the end of this like long build-up romance. They don't even like kiss properly.
They don't even kiss.
Nothing happened. They're just like, let's go and get coffee.
Well, and that's the whole thing with this book. It has to be not like steamy at all. There can't be too much sexual kissing. There can't be too much like appreciating each other's body, unless you're just appreciating that Mike is very big and protective and Ricky has well-shaped breasts. We can appreciate those things, but it's otherwise not going to be about any physical elements of the relationship because that's for marriage. Oh my God. And I loved all the about the author section at the end. It's like, Liberty Adams lives in the wide open spaces west of the Rockies. She writes wholesome, lighthearted romance about patriots who love America, our president, and best of all, fall in love at the end of each story. And I'm like,
spoiler. They fall in love at the end of every story. I'm not going to buy the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wears the hats of mum, wife, and community volunteer. She proudly owns and wears several assorted MAGA hats.
She wears many hats. Author, mom, wife, volunteer, and also MAGA hats.
Literally different MAGA hats.
She literally wears many MAGA hats.
I just put, like, my note here was just, I'm so desperate to know if you are real, Liberty. Like, if you are real, I don't think you're a woman. I just, you know, by real, I mean, if you are, if these are genuinely your beliefs, I just can't see it. I don't know.
The third book in the series actually sounds like, it sounds also awful like this, but it sounds like she took a different perspective where it's like the woman is the Trump supporter in this one. So it's about a woman who's a real estate developer and loves Trump. And she's about to get a meeting with Trump, and Trump is asking her to develop this plot of land for her real estate company. And then there's a man who lives in a mountain lair, and all alone in his mountain lair, he has no patience for the trespassing female who pesters him about his land. So she's trying to buy the land from him to develop, to impress Trump. And he won't let her buy and develop the land. And I guess they fall in love.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds actually like really hilarious. Like, this one was pretty odd. Like, I don't know, the whole, like, that's such a common romance trope too, though, right? Like, big real estate developer comes in and this person doesn't want to give up their land and then they fall in love. That's such a common romance trope, but almost always the developer gives up the development at the end and they learn to fall in love in the little town that the other person, because that's supposed to be the wholesome thing. I'm assuming, since Trump is always right in these books, in this case it's going to be more like he eventually agrees that he doesn't need his mountain lair and she can develop the land. Which will be an interesting twist. Maybe we'll have to let us know in the comments if we need to read that one. I'm not reading this Sea Captain romance because it sounds dumb.
It sounds kind of boring. I really like the note to readers. It's like, the readers of these stories are the best of America. And
well,
it's just
I guess
like,
we both read this, so we're the best of America. You're not even American.
Am I the best of America?
You're the best of America. Oh my God, congratulations.
I tell you what, I did have, like I said, a really good time reading that ridiculous.
This book was hilarious, dude.
It was,
and I'm
really
glad we
funny.
read it just to make this video, because this was hilarious, and I'm glad we got to spend our day this way.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted with my chill Sunday. To talk about the MAGA romance book.
Me too. I wanted nothing more.
I really like, if anybody knows of similar, like, where you're not sure if they're satire, like, it wasn't even that it was bad, but so like silly that you're not sure if it's real or not. Any more books like this, drop them down below, because I genuinely enjoyed that a lot and I want to read more. And also they seem to always be really cheap. So
they're so cheap. Yeah. I mean, we can definitely review the third one, but it's like, yeah, let us know. I want to review more, like, because we reviewed Girl Defined. You're quickly becoming my favorite person to review books with, so I want to review more books with you.
We've got to do, I've still got to read through The Transformed Wife.
Oh my God, I'll read The Transformed Wife with you. We can do The Transformed Wife.
We need to do that one, but that's going to be like a more difficult one, I think,
because we know she's serious. We know she's serious.
Yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, thank you so much, Savvy, for joining me. This was
absolutely. Thank you for reading this book with me. I'm glad we read this together and had such a fun time. I'm so happy we did. Yeah. So again, make sure, if you haven't, you're going to watch it backwards, but make sure you check out the other half of the video on Savvy's channel, and go and subscribe to Savvy anyway. We do lots of collabs together when we can, because we have a lot of fun. And give the video a cheeky like. Definitely leave your thoughts down below, and I hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you very soon.